All right, so we're diving straight in today.
Yeah.
We're taking a look at the Notre Dame Football Spring Practice Press Conference.
From April 4th,
April 4th.
2025.
And we are
zeroing in on the defensive backs and the specialists.
This is kind of like a little shortcut to understanding.
Shortcut.
Yeah, shortcut to understanding what's actually going on.
Exactly. We went to that transcript so you don't have to...
Yes, you don't have to read the whole thing.
Get the Spark Notes version.
Spark Notes.
Just the good stuff.
All right, well, let's unpack it.
Let's dig into it.
Defensive backs first, and I think starting with the safeties is a good place to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
It sounded like the coach had some initial thoughts on that group.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, you get the impression that it's a really talented room.
Okay.
But still young,
yeah.
right? You see some inexperience.
Okay.
But what I really liked is the emphasis on their commitment.
Okay.
You know, they're having extra meetings to kind of get up to speed with the playbook.
Yeah, I mean, they're putting in that extra work to really kind of try to...
Yeah.
You know,
sure.
accelerate that learning curve.
Yeah, and I always think that when you have like a competitive environment in a position group,
yeah,
it just elevates everybody's play.
Oh, absolutely. So iron sharpens iron, right?
Exactly.
Okay, well, Tae, it sounds like he's been primarily at field safety this spring.
Yeah, and doing well.
Yeah,
he's healthy.
Which is
which is great.
Which is good.
Yeah.
And, you know, for those who might be newer to football,
sure.
You know, the field safety is typically the guy who's got more ground to cover.
More range.
Yeah, on the wide side of the field.
Right.
Interestingly, though, he's also getting some reps at corner.
Right, which is interesting.
Yeah, does that signal anything specific to you?
I think it's a good sign that they're, keeping him primarily at field safety because that offers some stability. But those reps at corner suggest that they might be thinking about ways to use his skills in different situations.
Depending on the opponent, right?
Exactly. Week to week.
Yeah, week to week, exactly.
Matchups and things like that.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's a good sign. And also I think, the coach saying that.
What did he say?
The room needs to continue to hold a standard up.
Yeah.
I think that kind of tells you what the expectations are in that unit.
A high bar.
Yeah, a high bar, absolutely.
Okay. Now, one thing that really stood out to me was this discussion around defensive scheme adjustments.
Yeah.
It seems like Coach Ash is really emphasizing zone coverage this spring.
It's a shift. And, I think for your listeners, it means we might see the defense react to route combinations differently.
Okay.
So instead of strictly following receivers, they'll be defending areas of the field.
Okay.
And this allows for, more eyes on the quarterback, potential more interceptions. But the challenge is going to be...
Well, yeah, I mean, the challenge with zone is communication, right?
Absolutely.
Everybody's got to be on the same page.
Everyone has to know their responsibility, and especially against teams that like to flood zones.
Yeah, flood zones.
With receivers.
Yeah. That can be really tricky.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that'll be something to watch. But
yeah,
they did say that they're still incorporating the previous schemes.
Right. So it's not like they're just completely abandoning what worked.
Yeah, they're adding layers.
Adding layers, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
They're not scrapping the whole thing.
Right.
It's about evolution.
Okay. The coach even said that the aim is for the secondary to be more versatile than last year.
Right.
Moving beyond primarily man coverage.
More tools in the toolbox.
Yeah. I mean, everyone learning various zone coverages to play different schemes.
Yeah.
That feels like a pretty big change.
It is a big change.
And
it could pay off.
Yeah. What are some of the benefits of moving in that direction, do you think?
Well, I think it makes the defense less predictable.
Okay.
If an offense knows that you're always in man coverage, they can scheme to exploit individual matchups.
Right.
By incorporating more zone, you can kind of disguise your looks.
Yeah, keep them guessing.
Exactly.
Okay.
And make it harder for the quarterback to anticipate where defenders will be.
Right.
So that's a big one.
Okay. All right. Well, let's dig into some of the new and developing players.
Yeah.
In the secondary,
what are we looking at?
The coach seemed pretty high on the new addition, referring to they,
right,
which we understand includes Devontae as doing a great job being competitive.
Yeah.
What do you look for when coaches talk about new players this way?
I mean, the emphasis on being competitive, that's a really positive indicator to me.
Okay.
Because it suggests that these guys aren't just soaking things in.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not just happy to be there.
They're not just happy to be there. They're trying to earn a spot. Right. And they're pushing the guys who are already there.
Right.
And I think that's
Healthy competition.
Yeah, it's healthy competition. It brings out the best in everyone.
Absolutely.
And the fact that he's including Devontae in that group suggests to me that he's fitting in well.
Right.
He's bought into the team culture.
Right. He's part of that competitive atmosphere.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, and then there's Don Blair, the freshman, who's getting some attention for his unique length.
He's long.
How does that typically translate on the field for a DB?
Well, think about it this way.
Okay.
If you've got those long arms, you can disrupt passing windows even if you're not in perfect coverage.
Okay.
Think about like a basketball player contesting a shot.
Okay.
Those long arms make it much harder to get the ball over.
Okay, so like even if he's not right there on the receiver, he can still get a hand in there.
Exactly. He can get a hand in there.
Okay.
Maybe tip the ball away. And then, of course, covering ground in zone.
Right.
And being able to high point interceptions.
Yeah.
So, length is definitely an asset.
All right. We also got some insights from the returning players themselves.
Yeah. What are they saying?
Well, one of the recurring themes I noticed was learning from last season.
Okay.
Preparation.
Yeah.
Treating practice reps like game reps was key.
All about.
James even mentioned focusing on a one-rep mindset.
Yeah.
Now, for those who might not follow football closely, can you kind of elaborate on why that's so important?
So in a football game, a defensive back might only have a handful of critical one-on-one matchups that really determine the outcome.
Okay.
And the one-rep mindset is about training yourself to be absolutely locked in and execute perfectly on every single snap, whether it's in practice or a game.
Yeah.
So it's a mental thing,
Right. Treating every opportunity like it's the most important.
Exactly. Every rep matters because you never know which one is going to be the game changer.
Right. And for specialists like the punter we'll talk about later, this becomes even more critical.
Oh, absolutely. Because their opportunities are even more limited.
Yeah, way more limited.
So every rep is precious.
Okay.
They've got to make it count.
Okay. And they also talked about improving from last year by becoming more versatile, understanding those different zone coverages, which really echoes what the coaches were saying.
Right.
It sounds like that message is really resonating with the players.
I think so. Yeah. I think it's a good sign when you see that alignment between the coach's objectives and the player's focus.
Yeah. They're all on the same page.
Yeah, they're all on the same page. And that just increases the likelihood of success.
Absolutely. Okay. The theme of new players fitting in also came up with mentions of Devontae and experienced transfers.
Right.
Bringing leadership, Yeah. And then the younger guys like Curry Thomas and Ethan J. Don learning and improving. It seems like there's a really healthy mix.
Yeah, it's a good blend.
Of experience and youth in that locker room.
And that's often a recipe for success.
Yeah.
Because you have the veterans who can provide that leadership, mentor the younger guys.
Right.
And then you've got the young talent pushing the veterans to stay sharp.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win.
Everyone benefits.
Everyone benefits.
Okay. Competition for playing time seems to be significant.
Right.
But it's being viewed positively.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
The players feel like they're improving and getting more comfortable with the system.
That comfort level is so important.
Yeah. One player even mentioned his, increased comfort after 3 years in the program.
And, that usually translates to better performance on the field.
Right. Because you're not thinking as much. You're just reacting.
Yeah, you're not overthinking it.
You're just playing.
You're just playing.
Okay. Individual player development, another key area. We heard about feeling more polished, becoming bigger, longer, more physical, improving in coverage.
That's what you want to hear.
Yeah. And there's even a desire to be a dominant player.
Yeah. By
knowing the entire defense and being a leader.
And that's the kind of mindset you want from your players.
Right.
That ambition to be a dominant player.
Yeah.
It shows that they're really taking ownership of their development.
Yeah. And understanding the entire defense is crucial for leadership.
It is, because it allows you to anticipate what others are doing.
Right.
You can make calls.
Adjustments.
You can make more impactful plays.
Right. So because you have that broader understanding of how your role fits into the whole thing.
You see the bigger picture.
Okay. And speaking of leadership, several players mentioned taking on more of a leadership role.
Yeah.
Guiding younger players based on their experiences, leading by example.
That peer-to-peer leadership is so valuable.
Setting a high standard in the room seems to be a collective goal.
And I think that's one of the things that makes Notre Dame special.
Yeah.
There's a real emphasis on that kind of leadership from within.
Okay. Well, Why is that peer-to-peer leadership so valuable?
Well, because it comes from a different place than coaching.
Okay.
The players who have been through the program,
Yeah.
they understand the expectations.
Right.
They can share their experiences. They can provide specific tips.
Yeah.
And they can hold each other accountable.
Yeah, in a way that's different from the coach, right?
Exactly.
It's coming from a teammate.
It's coming from a teammate.
Okay. The players also seem to feel that the new scheme actually allows them to make more plays.
Yeah, there's a sense of empowerment there.
Take their game to the next level.
Right.
They even mentioned the freedom to make plays.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah. But are there any potential downsides to that?
Well, I think the key is to balance that freedom with discipline. You don't want guys over-pursuing or taking unnecessary risks.
Right.
So communication and a deep understanding of the concepts are going to be essential.
Right, so that freedom doesn't turn into chaos.
Exactly.
Okay. We also heard that more communication is being emphasized under Coach Ash.
Communication is key.
Which is, a fundamental aspect of any successful defense.
Absolutely. It's like the quarterback of the defense.
Okay. What are some ways that increased communication can actually improve performance?
Well, it allows players to relay information quickly.
Okay.
About formations.
Okay.
Receiver movements, potential threats.
Right.
So everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
There's less confusion.
Prevents those blown coverages.
Prevents blown coverages.
Yeah.
Ensures proper run fits.
Yeah.
And ultimately fewer big plays for the other team.
Okay. Comfort at different positions was another interesting point.
Yeah, versatility is valuable.
Players are feeling comfortable at both safety and corner nickel.
Right.
Seeing that as a valuable asset.
Right. And it is because it gives the coaches more options.
Right.
They can match up against different offensive looks.
Yeah.
And it also provides insurance against injuries.
Right. If somebody goes down, you've got other guys.
Exactly. You've got guys who can step in.
Who can fill that role.
Yeah. And for the players themselves, it increases their value to the team.
Absolutely.
And their chances of getting on the field.
Okay. The impact of health was also highlighted.
Yeah.
Being healthy provides that confidence and that sense of urgency to compete for playing time.
When you're healthy, you can focus on getting better.
Right.
You're not worried about rehabbing.
Right. One player specifically mentioned focusing on improving playbook knowledge.
Right.
How are those two things, health and playbook knowledge, intertwined?
Well, I think when you're healthy, you can fully participate in practices.
Okay.
You can get those reps.
Yeah.
You can develop your skills.
Yeah.
And you can also focus more on the mental aspects of the game.
Right.
Like learning the playbook.
Right.
If you're constantly battling injuries, your mental energy is going towards recovery.
Right. You're not focused on the playbook.
Exactly.
Okay. It's great to hear that players are learning from past Notre Dame greats.
Yeah, it's a great tradition.
Like Bamo. And X even seeking their advice on film study and techniques.
Mentorship is so important.
What does that say about the culture of the program?
Well, it shows a respect for the program's history.
Okay.
And a willingness to learn from those who came before.
Yeah.
And it also suggests that the alumni are still invested in the program.
Right.
They're willing to offer their guidance.
Yeah, they're giving back.
They're giving back.
Okay, finally, in the defensive backs discussion, we heard that players are focusing on off-man coverage.
Right.
And footwork this spring.
Fundamentals.
Yeah. Why are those two areas so critical?
Well, off-man coverage is essential in situations where you're not pressing at the line of scrimmage.
Okay.
You have to be able to read the receiver, stay in position, and react to their routes.
Okay.
And footwork is the foundation of all good DB play.
Right.
It allows you to stay balanced, change direction quickly, and stay in front of the receiver.
Okay.
Without good footwork, you're in trouble.
And we can't forget the cornerback who felt that 15 wasn't a corner number.
Oh, yeah, he switched to a single digit.
Yeah.
Right?
It might seem trivial.
Yeah.
But do you think that reflects anything deeper?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think for some players, it's about that connection to the game.
Yeah.
Their identity on the team.
Right.
For a cornerback, wearing a single digit can be a badge of honor.
Right.
So
statement.
It is a statement.
All right, well, let's shift gears now.
Okay.
And dive into the special teams discussion.
Let's do it.
The kicker search was a big topic.
Yeah.
And the coach outlined the key factors they considered when evaluating kickers in the portal.
Okay.
Starting with form and ball flight.
Right.
What specifically are they looking for there?
Well, with form, they're looking for consistency in the technique.
Okay.
A smooth, repeatable motion.
Right.
That maximizes power and accuracy.
Okay.
And ball flight is the visual result of that.
Okay.
They want to see a clean strike.
Right.
Good trajectory, consistent rotation.
Consistent rotation, that's key. Right?
Yeah, you want that end-over-end rotation because it creates a more stable slight and prevents the ball from wobbling or fading.
Right.
So that's crucial for accuracy, especially on longer kicks.
Okay, the success of previous transfer kickers definitely played a role in Noah's decision.
Right. They got a good track record with specialists.
Groupie Spencer Mitch.
Yeah, those guys have done well.
Why is it so important for a program to have that reputation?
Well, it can be a big recruiting advantage.
Okay.
Because kickers and punters, they rely heavily on coaching and technique.
Okay.
So if a program has a history of developing those guys, it's going to attract top talent.
Makes sense.
It shows that they know what they're doing when it comes to specialism.
Yeah. Okay. And why did Noah choose Notre Dame specifically?
Well, it sounds like he felt comfortable with the coaching approach.
Okay.
You know, being coached like any other position.
Yeah.
And the fact that the coach is a former specialist.
Right.
That was a big draw for him.
Okay. Why is that kind of coaching philosophy so important for specialists?
Well, I think sometimes specialists can feel like afterthoughts.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But when a coach emphasizes that they're just as important as any other position and gives them that same level of attention, it makes a huge difference.
Right.
And having a coach who's been in their shoes, who understands the mental side of it, I mean, that could be invaluable.
Okay. The current focus with Noah is on ensuring consistent end-over-end rotation.
Right.
After he's recovered from, you know, some previous over-kicking concerns and injuries.
Yeah. Got to refine that technique.
What are some of the dangers of a kicker over-kicking?
Well, when you try to generate too much power, you often sacrifice consistency. You can get poor ball striking, inconsistent rotation, lack of accuracy.
And I would imagine it could lead to injuries too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You're putting a lot of stress on your body when you're over-kicking.
Okay, moving to the return game.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot of confidence in finding new returners.
They've got options.
Yeah, multiple options like Jadarium, J-Love, Will Pauling, for both kick and punt returns.
And Jaden Grayhouse specifically for punts.
And Jaden Grayhouse specifically for punts, yeah.
Yeah, they're not short on athletes.
What are the key attributes coaches look for in a successful returner?
Well, you need speed, agility, vision.
Okay.
You got to be able to accelerate quickly.
Yeah.
Change direction without losing speed.
Make good decisions in traffic.
Exactly. You got to see those lanes open up.
Right.
And you need courage, too.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to take a hit.
And good hands.
Good hands.
Yeah, you got to catch the ball. And there was a humorous mention of potentially convincing Faison, the lacrosse player, to join.
Oh, yeah. That's a long shot.
Yeah.
But it shows that they're thinking outside the box.
Yeah, they're looking everywhere.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk punter development.
Oh.
James talked about the adjustments he made last year, acclimating to football.
Right.
Understanding the importance of that one-rep mindset for consistency.
It's a mental game.
Yeah, it's interesting how that theme carries over from the DBs.
Yeah, it's crucial for specialists.
Highlighting its importance across different positions.
It's actually for those guys.
Yeah.
Because they have so few opportunities in the game.
Right.
You know, they have to make each one count.
Right. It's a big mental adjustment coming from other sports where you might have, you know, way more action.
More frequent reps.
Yeah. And then he even playfully commented about wanting to wear a GPS.
Oh, yeah, to prove his speed?
Yeah, for potential fake punts.
He wants to run.
That sounds like he's eager to contribute.
Yeah, he's not just a punter.
In more ways than just punting.
He wants to be a weapon.
It was also interesting to hear players expressing a genuine love for special teams.
Yeah, they seem to really buy into it.
Yeah, seeing it as valuable for gaining game reps and trust from the coaches.
And that's so important.
Yeah, sometimes special teams can be overlooked.
Right.
But it sounds like it's embraced here.
And for good reasons.
Why is it so important for players to buy into special teams?
Well, because it can be the difference in a close game.
Okay.
Think about field position.
Yeah.
Momentum-shifting returns.
Right.
Crucial field goals.
Right.
When everyone's invested, it elevates the whole unit.
Yeah.
And it also gives younger players a chance to get on the field and gain experience.
Gain that trust from the coaches.
Exactly.
Okay. Punter Ben echoed that focus on process and technique.
Yeah, consistency is key.
To improve consistency and efficiency.
Right.
He even compared punting to a golf swing.
It's all about that repeatable motion.
Which I think really helps to visualize the precision involved.
It does, yeah.
What are some of the key technical aspects a punter focuses on?
The drop of the ball is huge.
Okay.
It needs to be consistent every time.
Okay.
For a clean strike.
Okay.
Footwork and approach to the ball are also critical.
Right.
And then the follow-through.
Yeah.
Making sure you're maximizing that leg swing.
Getting that desired trajectory and distance.
Exactly.
Okay. And like James Ben also joked about needing a GPS to demonstrate his speed.
Those punters are athletes, too.
Yeah, they want to be more than just punters.
They're looking for their chance to shine.
It sounds like the special teams unit has a bit of a personality.
They do. Yeah, they seem like a fun group.
So wrapping up this deep dive into the defensive backs and special teams press conference.
What are the key takeaways?
Yeah, what stood out to you?
Well, I think, first of all, the defense is making a clear effort to evolve.
Okay.
That emphasis on versatility in the secondary.
Right.
With more zone coverage.
That's going to be interesting to watch.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Secondly, the competition in that DB room.
Yeah.
Fueled by both new and returning players.
Right.
That suggests a lot of potential for growth.
Okay.
And finally, the special teams units seem to have a really solid foundation of experienced talent and promising young players.
And good coaching.
They seem well coached.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and the consistent theme across both units is that focus on fundamentals.
Right.
And that commitment to continuous improvement.
Yeah, that's what you want to see.
Absolutely.
I think for me, an aha moment was how that one rep mindset isn't just a coaching buzzword.
It's a real thing.
Yeah, it's a tangible mental skill that's being actively cultivated across different positions.
Especially for specialists.
Yeah, especially for the specialists.
Right.
It really highlights the mental preparation required in football.
It's a different beast.
Yeah, compared to other sports.
Right.
It's more continuous action.
You have to be ready for those high-pressure moments.
Absolutely.
When they come.
So here's a final thought for you to consider.
Okay, I'm listening.
Given this blend of, experience transfers, developing younger players, and the strategic shift to more zone coverage on defense, what will ultimately be the biggest factor determining their success?
That's a good question.
Is it the raw talent?
Yeah.
Their ability to adapt to the evolving schemes?
Or the leadership?
And based on what we've heard today, which individual player's development are you most intrigued to follow?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these pieces come together.
Absolutely. I can't wait for the season to start.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Anytime.
We'll be back next time with more Notre Dame football analysis.
Go Irish.
Go Irish.